What's up, homies? We got some shit to do, okay? We got 4 videos to react to, 3 MatPat videos, and 1 FNAF video, but that's the lowest priority right now, because today is MatPat's last day, which is very sad. He's already released his last theory. We're going to be reacting to it today. Because I haven't reacted to his last 2 FNAF theories, the movie trilogy one and the Thanks for the Memories one, I decided I'd just do these together. And then I plan on making this stream into 2 different videos, one for the game theories and one for the FNAF theory. I'm doing the FNAF one at the end so that we can do all the game theory stuff first, because that's the priority for the stream, but that's what we'll be doing today. The movie trilogy one is what we'll be doing first. That one's just, it's a normal FNAF game theory, so I'm just gonna react to it, explain what I agree with, what I don't agree with, obviously, as always. It's just a FNAF film theory FNAF reaction, but after that we'll just be watching the other 2 videos and seeing what there is. Meow. Thank you, Sandwich Man. Appreciate it. On the stream that I was on a couple, like, half an hour ago, Psychic and the others were already discussing the video, even though they hadn't watched it and I hadn't watched it, and I wanted my first reactions to be on this stream. Unfortunately, they talked about it a little bit. So I already know one of the big things that's gonna happen in his last theory, which is a bit unfortunate, but I don't know anything outside of that, and I don't know how that's even gonna go down. I just know that it happens. I was so close to unloading on them. That sounds weird out of context. I just got the alert, even though that happened like 2 minutes ago. I was very close to just yelling at them and being like, "Shut the hell up!" This is not. I didn't want to hear this, but nope, they just talked about it, so great. We got some time to prepare ourselves for MatPat's final video. I have a feeling it might be emotional. The film theory is going to be MatPat's favorite. It's about robots, isn't it? I actually don't know what it's about, so I assume that's what it is, considering what you just said. Outside of just the general concept of it, I have no idea if the final theory will be emotional. If I cry, I cry. I cry a lot during movies. I am a little bit of a wimp. So if it is emotional and I cry, I'll be shutting off the stream because nobody's allowed to see me cry. I also got a haircut today. And when I say I got a haircut, I mean my mom cut my hair. So people can't laugh at his theories anymore, rip. That's a little sad. I sometimes make fun of his theories or disagree with his theories, but he himself loved the dude. Nothing's gonna change that. His theories don't define him. He is awesome. Love MatPat. It's gonna be sad to not see him anymore. I'll still be reacting to the game theories and film theories about FNAF, but it won't be the same anymore without MatPat. We're gonna get into film theory FNAF. I know how the movie trilogy ends. That's what we're gonna be watching first, and so let's do that. Yay! We gotta prepare ourselves. Film theory. 4 film theories remain. Now
Hello,
none.
Internet. Welcome to Film Theory, the show that deserves its own semi-canon novelization. Friends, it feels like some sort of cruel joke. The Five Nights at Freddy's movie came and went from theaters. It was fun. It did great financially, and we all had ourselves a grand old time. We moved on, and now we wait patiently for the next installment to drop, where Mike seeks help for a sleeping disorder, and Freddy and friends take their fort-building business on the road to turn it into a major real estate venture. Everything was in balance, as it should be. And yet, they couldn't just leave well enough alone, could they? Because just like clockwork for this franchise,
oh, the movie novelization. That makes sense considering what he just said.
A book! Even though I announced my final episodes, I still...
Also, just let me know if the audio's good. Let me know in chat, just to make sure.
Couldn't get out of this thing fast enough, could I? Even though all the book releases were technically done for the franchise, after 22 solid books, and that's not even including the graphic novels and all the other spin-off materials, good old Scotty Cawthon found a way to squeeze one more in on me before my foot was out the door. And you know what I did? I read the thing. And gotta say, I'm glad that I did. Because
I'm gonna be honest, I haven't read it yet. How much of it okay, I've read some of it. I have it actually right in front of me. This is not planned, I just had it in front of me. Okay, I've read 19 pages. You can tell because that's where there's a fold here. I've read 19 pages of the movie novel. So, I need to read it because I still plan on doing a video on it. Even though it came out 3 months ago, I'm going to ban you if you keep spamming.
It is a theorist gold mine. Ladies and gentlemen, I stand before you today to
It is a theorist gold mine. I haven't read all of it, but I know of some of the stuff that's in it, and there's definitely lore in it.
Sorry, that the FNAF movie book. Oh, I can't even say it. It physically makes me ill to acknowledge that something like this exists. Ladies and gentlemen, I stand here today to tell you that the book version of the FNAF movie, it tells us everything about where the film spin-off series is headed to next. And perhaps more importantly than anything, it tells us that the big reveal of Chapter 3 is gonna be that Vanessa is a robot. Yeah, I know. You may now commence throwing things angrily at your computer monitor. So while you're busy getting yourself an angry arm workout, what am I talking about exactly? Well, I don't know if you're aware of this, but it's not uncommon for films to get themselves what are known as movie novelizations. Basically a book that retells the exact same story as a movie, but because it's a book, there tend to be additional details thrown in to bulk things out. Insight into characters, their thoughts, their motivations, more descriptions of scenes, things like that. As you might imagine, novelizations like these were really popular before home video because people didn't have a way to relive the theater experience at their house. Nowadays, though, it's more of an additional source of found revenue for a movie. You already got yourself a script written after all, so you might as well throw in a few thousand extra words, slap a cover on it, probably just recycle some old promotional artwork, and boom! You just made yourself a couple extra bucks from the hardcore fans and the collectors. So of course, when the FNAF movie got itself one, I was legally bound to read through it with the hope and expectation that there might be some juicy lore hidden inside of its pages. And let me tell you, I was not disappointed. It was like experiencing the movie through some sort of weird multiverse. For instance, I am actually in the book. Well, Ness, my character from the movie. The catchphrase is in there and everything. It is really cool. I'm described as a, quote, tall, lanky, auburn-haired teen. I appreciate that book. You know what they say, the camera adds 10 pounds.
He's like 20 years older than his movie counterpart.
More lore, apparently, and I didn't even know this is the guy who was playing the character, Ness is supposedly the son of the diner's owner, whose name is, in fact, Sparky. And that right there, that's a pretty interesting detail when you consider that there's a dog animatronic who we've all been assuming is Sparky hidden in the back of Freddy's Pizzeria. It is a super unusual detail that gets just a little bit more explanation and a bit more insight, all thanks to the novel. So, I'm the son of a fake animatronic dog. File that one in my character bio right alongside my undying love for Doug the lawyer. Or
Doug.
not. You see, Doug in the book
oh god.
Very different.
Oh no.
Straight up features him openly creeping on Maxine. Enough so that she thinks of him as a total sleazeball. Let's just say that he's hungry for more than just the apps. Thankfully, he's one of the precious few times that Scott Cawthon has stepped in to set the record straight, explaining that this gross version of my best shipmate is in fact non-canon, and that this scene will be altered in all future.
I actually, I went to Walmart. I go to Walmart all the time. Maybe not all the time, but sometimes. And a few days ago, I went to Walmart, and I went to, like, the book section, and I found the movie novel there, and then I opened it up, and then I checked that part of the book. I was pretty sure that it didn't happen yet, because I assumed that there would have been, like, an announcement or something like that for it, but because, he said that this is something I will change in future prints. I was like, I wonder if it's happened yet. I wonder if they changed it yet. Nope, they haven't. I didn't expect it to be changed yet, but that would have been funny if it was.
Printings of the novelization. In short, Nug lives on. Or would you consider us
not Doug?
Anyway, you can already see how words on the
Ness and Doug, okay. I'm stupid.
Page gives you tons of additional context to what you're seeing on the screen, and likely more insight into the original intent of these sorts of moments. And as you might imagine, if small bit players like Doug and I are getting lore drops from the books, then the main characters are also getting a lot of extra info in there as well. For instance, in the movie, it was lightly implied that Maxine had a bit of a crush on Mike. I picked it up right here, where she subtly signals that she wants him to put a ring on it.
I wish someone would buy me a ring.
It's not a big plot point, but you can tell that there's a bit more under the surface of this interaction. In the book, though, it goes from subtle subtext.
I don't think that really implies that in the movie itself, but, like, it doesn't say that it's not true. I mean, I'm pretty sure the book says that. I'm pretty sure that's where he's going with this. But I'm not sure that line specifically indicates that she wants Mike to, but...
Point. She constantly dresses up for Mike, dropping tons of hints about her interest, growing more and more frustrated with Mike as he's completely oblivious to her advances. In fact, it's actually part of her motivation for spying on him for Aunt Jane, which she also feels very regretful for in the books, unlike the film where she just kind of looks sad out of a window for a bit.
That indicates that she is sad.
Mike is more of a theorist in the book than he was in the film, actively taking on more of the responsibility for unraveling the mystery. He independently does research. He even discovers the missing missing children's incident by himself
I can't blame Max. Mike is fine. Yeah, but Max is too. Let's be real.
instead of just being told about it by Vanessa.
And Vanessa,
in the
to be
film.
fair.
I guess they just had to remove that part of the character from the film lest he get compared.
Sorry,
to
what did he say? I wasn't
in the
listening.
book than he was in the film, actively taking on more of the responsibility for unraveling the mystery. He independently does research. He even discovers the missing children's incident by himself instead of just being told about it by Vanessa later on in the film. I guess they just
okay.
had to remove that part of the character from the film lest he get compared to the performances coming from other established theorists in the community. Okay, so that's obviously a bunch of random observations and details, adding a bit more texture to these characters that either got cut for time or glossed over in a more visual storytelling medium. But there is so much more packed into this book, enough so that I believe that we can figure out exactly where the story of the next 2 movies is headed. And it all begins with the hill
How?
that apparently I'm going to be dying on for my final FNAF theories, a human being a robot. Don't hate the player,
Yeah.
hate the game. Literally. I'm not the one making up the story here, friends. I just interpret the clues as best I can.
A lot of
In this
people
case, we don't have
suggest
ourselves
that
a
you
robot
are the
boy.
one making
Instead, we have
the
ourselves
lore.
a robot cop, Vanessa. Vanessa is a robot, and I suspect she's not going to be the only one. Now, obviously,
Great.
that is a huge claim to make, so let's start backing it up, shall we? Last time we talked about how Film Afton seems to be much further along in his understanding of the possessed animatronics than either his game or book counterparts. For instance, he knows
I argue not really, because he does the exact same thing, but more in the books. And in the games, we don't really know how much he knows, but he probably knows like the same amount as his book counterpart, especially considering what he does around, like a little bit after the time of FNAF 1. So I'd argue that he does know like the same amount.
that they operate based off the pictures that are hung on the wall.
What have you done?
He knows that, as he's dying, he needs to be wearing the golden Bonnie suit in order for his soul to survive by bonding to the metal.
I always come back.
He even seems to have a rudimentary understanding of Remnant based on the existence of that weird torture Freddy mask. I mean, seriously, these animatronics are
That's
not
another hill he
invented
won't
a device
die
like
on.
this. It has to have been man-made. In fact, the novelized version of the movie's
I will die on the hill that I don't think he will die on the hill that this is a torture device. I will die on the hill that it is not. I will die on the hill that it is simply the animatronic devices that Phone Guy talks about in FNAF 1. Sure, those look like saws, but maybe they're just animatronic devices, like weirdly designed gears, or just something else that is part of the mask. Because the fact that this is in the face matches what Phone Guy says in FNAF 1, so.
for not inventing a device like this. It has to have been man-made. In fact, the
Yeah,
novelized
probably by
version of
Henry.
this Cold Open suggests exactly this. If you read the prologue of the book very closely, you learn that Bob, the security guard whose death opens the film, had already figured out that he was nothing more than a lamb for the slaughter in this job. First, his internal monologue acknowledges that he had been hired to guard the pizzeria. It's written expressly in sarcastic scare quotes there, showing that he knows very well that the job was never meant to be real. And as he's being dragged to his death by the animatronics, he passes by the kid's drawing of Afton holding the kid's hands. And we read that bile fills his throat in this moment. He knows that that picture, and the rabbit specifically, is the reason that he's currently fighting for his life. In short, the extra details in the prologue of the novelization strongly suggest that Afton is actively hiring guards to this pizzeria to harvest remnant from them so he can continue on with his experiments. And he's using his control over the animatronics to help make all of this happen. And because of that,
maybe,
despite
yeah,
this being
sure.
an adaptation of one of the earliest FNAF stories, Film Afton
Thank
is
you.
likely already tinkering with much more advanced animatronic technology. Again, look no further than the cold open of the novel. The torture Freddy mask isn't just an old repurposed Freddy head like it is in the movie. Instead, it's described like this. Quote, "The two halves of the bear face peeled back like the wings of a beetle, expanding outward. As the fur parted, spinning robotic mechanisms filled Bob's vision." This description of how the mask operates, with pieces that split apart and fold out, is actually much more fitting of a different generation of animatronic, the Funtime animatronics. And what do we see in FNAF 5, the game where these fun times take center stage? Down in Afton's bunker, we see articulating humanoid robot heads, eyes
Oh, God.
constantly blinking. They're alive and they're watching us. And these aren't just set decorations either. These
They're not
heads
looking
are
at us at
important
all,
enough to have
but
been
sure.
directly called out by the FNAF character encyclopedia. In the game prior, FNAF 4, Afton's final line was, "I will put you back together."
That's assuming
In FNAF
that's
5,
Afton
we see
saying that,
exactly
though,
that. A
which I
bunker made
doubt.
by Afton full of robotic humanoids. A mad scientist of a man trying to use his robotic skills to bring a human back to life, to put his loved ones back together, literally. Going back to the movie, this is likely why we see a humanoid animatronic with teeth, silver eyes, and an arm with 5 articulated human fingers buried in the parts and services room. It's not just an Easter egg put there from scraps laying around the Jim Henson office. This looks like it's a first-generation robot person. So, we have an Afton that's already harvesting and experimenting with Remnant at the beginning of this film. And we know that there's a human-shaped robot buried in the parts and services room that suggests that he might have been working on some sort of human prototype. That right there, though, is still a long way away from creating a convincing enough robot that it's able to fool literally everyone around it. And why then would it be Vanessa, of all people? Well, the first thing I'd like to talk about here is actually something that jumped out to me the first time I watched the movie: the performance of Vanessa's actress, Elizabeth Lale. Something I noticed throughout the movie was how aloof and disconnected Vanessa seemed. Her voice was always flat, her character almost always stoic.
The new security guard?
Yeah.
You're bleeding, by the way.
You and Abby, you still have each other.
From where I sit, I'd say you're lucky.
And for the times that she actually did show emotion, she was flipping on a dime, seemingly out of nowhere.
Take care of your sister.
You can do whatever you want with your own life, but if you ever bring Abby back here again, I will shoot you.
Considering the character that she's based on from the games, you'd think that she might...
That's not really changing at all. That's her being like, protect your sister. Oh, and if you don't protect your sister, screw you. Like, that's not really changing anything.
be more bubbly or energetic based on how she was in Security Breach.
Hello, little boy. If you're down here, say something. Hey, little man. Do you know what time it is? The doors are open.
I mean, yeah, it's a
Why
different
are you
version of the
still here?
character.
This
So.
isn't meant to be some sort of critique on Elizabeth Lale's performance or anything like that. We know that she's a talented actor. I mean, just check out some of the clips of her playing Anna in the show Once Upon a Time.
He's Prince Charming, and you're Snow White, and those things sound terrible, but they also sound romantic. What is that amazing smell? Chocolate!
No, the flatter delivery from her has to have been an intentional direction that she was given. Perhaps direction to sound a bit more robotic. In the novelization, Vanessa seems to
Doubt.
shift personalities on a dime, changing between what Mike describes as the bubbly girl mode and the...
Also, the humanoid robots in the series, and when I say that, I mean Charlotte, don't act robotic. They act human. They're never said to have, like, flatter emotions. So, even if that was the case, even if she was meant to sound more robotic, that's not really something that is consistent with robots that we've seen in the past. So that doesn't really seem to prove anything to me.
Intensely serious cop mode. For example, during their first night meeting, we get this, quote, "Then someone invisible flipped a switch. Vanessa's cop mode deactivated." That right there, it's a pretty suspicious way of phrasing a psychological change like that. Intentionally using robotic language in this franchise? Yeah, press X to doubt. The same thing happens
Or it's just a
towards the
writing
end of the movie,
technique.
too, where after Vanessa's stabbed by Afton, Abby notices this, quote again, "Vanessa's eyes looked weird, like they were lights that were having a hard time staying on." And speaking of both Vanessa's eyes and her personality shift,
Yeah, 'cause she's
the absolute
dying.
biggest piece of evidence here, Vanessa's eyes literally change color when she shifts personalities. Check it out, again from the book, page 144. Right after Mike tells Vanessa about his Garrett kidnapping dreams, quote, "The narrowing of the eyes, the stiffening of her mouth, she was back in cop mode." No, Mike thought, it wasn't cop mode, it was something else. Vanessa's irises deepened noticeably in hue. They went from their usual soft, almost grayish blue to a deeper indigo. The color shift was so pronounced that it almost looked computer generated. Computer generated, huh? What a choice of words that is. An indigo, you say? You mean the color that some would confuse with purple? But perhaps the single most telling part of this little paragraph comes in the final line. It was enormously disquieting. Mike felt like he was watching a human turning into, and then he trails off, not having a chance to finish the thought. Turning into what, Mike? Turning into what? A robot, perhaps? This thing with the eyes, it isn't just a one-off change, it is a consistent part of Vanessa's character descriptions throughout the entire novel, while explaining how spring locks work. Quote, "Vanessa's irises did the light blue to dark blue thing. Her eyes had turned an even deeper blue, navy blue now, almost black. As Vanessa's explaining her father's creations like the spring locks, again, the eyes get darker, sometimes purple and sometimes black. It's almost as if she's fallen back on some sort of Afton-designed programming, almost like he's controlling her. In fact, every time Vanessa tries to do something to keep Mike from looking into this mystery and uncovering Afton's secrets, her eyes go to this darker color. In the scene next to the storm drain where she tries to convince Mike not to try sleeping and dreaming of Freddy anymore, her eyes are dark blue. In the same scene, as Mike tries to get Vanessa to open up so he can get to know her better, he notices that her eyes grow darker and become blurred. And then something, in quotes, breaks any connection that they're forming. And yet, when she's begging for him not to go to Freddy's at all, to save himself and Abby, again, quote, "He looked into her eyes, so soft and blue right now that it seemed like some of her essence, life force, was leaching from her." If there's some Afton-driven programming controlling Vanessa, that would also explain one of the stranger moments from the...
Okay, I will admit that is actually, like, decent evidence. I don't really know what to make of it. It could just be, like, kind of thing to indicate her change in mood, but I don't really have anything to, like, combat that with, so...
film. After Mike is attacked by the animatronics and saved by Vanessa, she reveals the dark secrets of her past and the pizzeria. When Mike asks her to help save Abby, though, she declines. Not because she doesn't want to help, but because she feels like she literally can't.
Come with me.
If he's there,
I won't be any use to you, believe me.
And when she does show up to the pizzeria later on, once confronted by Afton, she's only able to bring herself to shoot once before completely freezing up, kind of like a computer that's crashed. Even my favorite line of the movie.
You had one job. Keep him in the dark.
I mean, it's her dad, so...
Your job.
Is a robotic, process-driven answer. And before I say that Vanessa can't be a robot because we see her get stabbed and have to go to the hospital, yeah, that's admittedly the biggest point against the theory. That said, remember the franchise that we're talking about here, friends? These robots can be so lifelike, so realistic that you cannot tell them apart from real humans at all. They eat, they sleep, they breathe. They can even bleed like Charlie does in the original FNAF book trilogy.
Yeah, but it's
I
fake
get
blood,
that the FNAF
so...
franchise tends to be cryptic, but time and time again, there have been signs that someone in this franchise is a robot. Maybe it was Gregory from Security Breach. We know for a fact that Charlie from the book trilogy was, Jessica from Frailty, Billy from B7, Sarah from To Be Beautiful. The list goes on.
They're not... Charlie's a robot. Jessica and Sarah are not robots. They have pieces of, like, metal and robotic parts in them, but they're, like, their brains, their consciousness, it's still inside their bodies. They have remnant in them, or on them, in the heart-shaped pendant that's keeping them alive. So they're not robots. They're just people that are being kept alive, that have robotic parts in them. They're just surviving through that because of the remnant. Billy is not a robot at all. He's not a robot at all. He just has pieces of like, he has robotic parts or metal parts in him that are removed from him and then come alive because of agony. He's not a robot.
They are hitting us
Only
over the
Charlie
head
is a
time and
robot.
again with these kids who become robots. And if I just keep saying that one of these characters is in fact an animatronic, eventually I will be right.
Probably
Right.
not.
This would
No,
even
maybe.
make some strange imagery from the games make more sense. Remember the unmasked ending from Security Breach? No, of course not. Why would you? Well, in it, we see two
I remember
Vanessas.
it.
One who's fallen to the ground and died, while another's still up on the roof of the building looking down at the scene. This was always weird, and we as a FNAF community just kind of politely ignored it. But it suddenly
No,
makes
we
a lot
didn't.
more sense if
There's just
Vanessa
another
is, in
explanation.
fact, a robot. This is just two recreations of the same model. One became active the second the other one died, which again is something that we see happening in the original novel trilogy with Charlie bots. But why? Sure, Afton might be creepy, and he's even creepier in the book, but why go through all of this
Different
trouble?
model.
Keep the pizzeria up and running, hire new guards to farm remnant from, create an animatronic as human as Vanessa? This
Oh, okay. So, Vanessa being a robot in the games, no. A lot of people they come up with ideas, and that can explain this, usually involving her being a robot, and kind of just skip over the fact that there are other explanations. I'm not saying that wouldn't explain it. There are other explanations for this stuff, and like Matt said earlier, she did go to the hospital. And the robots in this series, especially Charlie, well, only Charlie, because she's the only robot in the series that we've actually seen or gotten to know, she has never gone to the doctor. She's never gone to a hospital. At least from what I remember. I'm pretty sure she never did. She feels normal. She feels like a human. She does the things that humans do, but she is not... She never actually goes to the doctor. She never goes to the hospital. And gets checked out. And if she did, they would see that she's a robot, because they can do, like... They could just see that her blood is fake. And that did happen. Like, she didn't go to the doctor or anything, but they found her blood, and they found... And they discovered that it was fake blood. It wasn't real blood. So, if Vanessa went to the hospital and she had fake blood, they would know that she's not normal, and that just wouldn't work. And that definitely would have been called out. So, yeah, they can get hurt, so them going to the hospital, like, willingly makes sense, or being taken to the hospital would make sense, but Charlotte never does. In Security Breach, Vanessa is not freed yet by this point. Like, Princess Quest hasn't happened yet, so her spirit is not freed from Glitchtrap's control. So that's why she's there. She's trapped with the building because she's not free yet. And also there's the fact that it's fire. That's a fire escape, yes, but it's on fire. So why would Vanessa go up there while the building was burning down? Like, I can understand thinking that she would go up there because it's a fire escape. That would make sense if it weren't for the fact that the fire escape itself was also burning. So her going up there would not really make that much sense. And she's just standing there. She's not trying to do anything. She's not trying to get down. And if she's up in the fire escape, she should at least still try to get to the stairs down where Gregory went. Maybe that part's blocked off by the fire. I don't know. But her going up there just doesn't really make that much sense.
Second, the other one died, which again is something that we see happening in the original novel trilogy with Charlie Bots. But why? Sure, Afton might be creepy, and he's even creepier in the book, but why go through?
Yeah, but they didn't die. There were multiples active at the same time.
Sure, Afton might be creepy, and he's even creepier in the book, but why go through all of this stuff? Keep the pizzeria up and running, hire new guards to farm Remnant from, create an animatronic as human as Vanessa? Why is he doing it? Well, the answer seems to be staring us in the face throughout the movie. It's this. The Ella Springlock suit in the back.
Uh-oh.
Think about it. Vanessa's incredibly cautious around this animatronic in the film, warning Mike not to go near it and going as far as threatening to shoot him if he brings Abby back to the pizzeria. If she loves all these animatronics so much, why is she so cautious about this one? Well, what if it already killed someone? Someone Vanessa knows very well. Someone like herself. Afton's daughter, the original Vanessa. I believe that in his desire to create the best animatronics possible, Afton created this Ella Springlock animatronic, and it ended up killing his own daughter. Just like what we see happen with Baby in the games. That is where his obsession started. His desire to find the secrets of life after death. He wanted to rebuild his daughter, and in the process, he discovered Remnant, how to create it, the pain required for it. That's why he built the torture device with the green Freddy mask, and made sure that it was close to the Ella animatronic in the parts and services room. Afton wanted to infuse the suit with Remnant, all in the hopes of bringing back his real Vanessa. Eventually, he was able to build the Vanessa that we see in the movie, but even then, she's difficult. She rebels. She doesn't want to help him as much, especially when children like Abby get involved. It's not his real Vanessa. And so Afton will keep trying and trying and trying. And if I'm right about this, it tells us a huge amount about where the franchise is headed in the next film. In our last theory, we suggested...
I could see that if Vanessa was a robot, but getting to that point getting to Vanessa being a robot doesn't really make sense. Also, yeah, like Zach just said in chat, or she's cautious because it has spring locks. She knows how they work. Her dad is William Afton. She knows how the spring locks work. So she doesn't have to have seen somebody die from a spring. She doesn't have to have seen or known about somebody dying to be cautious about spring locks.
That Mike's brother Garrett is likely the
God.
identity of the puppet in the film. So
Okay.
it'll probably be the centerpiece of the second movie.
Sure.
I mean, the credits literally end with...
Kind of doubt it.
both
I'm pretty
Mike
sure.
and Aud-
I think Libra said this, that apparently in the book it's implied or confirmed maybe that Garrett didn't possess anybody. I can't confirm that because I haven't read most of the book yet, and it's harder to combat his evidence if I disagree with it, considering I haven't read the book, which is why I haven't talked as much throughout this reaction so far. But I could see Garrett being the puppet if the book doesn't show that Garrett possesses nobody. If it doesn't say that, then I could see this being true. I don't think it's true, but I could see it possibly being true. But if the book does say that Garrett possesses nobody, then Garrett possesses nobody. So
audience to come find me. However,
Come
this is going to be a
find
problem
me.
for Mike, Abby, and Vanessa. You see, Afton has a strange connection with Garrett. In the book, Garrett actually appears in the pizzeria during the final battle, luring Mike to a more secluded area where Afton can ambush him. Afton has control over Garrett's spirit in the scene, enough so that Garrett literally melts into the shadows that Afton emerges from. Quote from the book, "It was as if Garrett became part of the gloaming under the archway. He was there, and then he was something else. In Garrett's place, someone in a rabbit costume appeared. Not just someone, a man. So if Afton controls Garrett's spirit, it's likely that the puppet is going to be the villain of the second film, creating a whole new conflict for Mike to overcome. And then if the third movie follows the third game, an undead Afton will be back as the main antagonist, with the grand reveal that he's been able to make robot people the entire time. Vanessa will be revealed to be a robot, and Afton will tempt Mike with exactly what he wants. He could put Garrett back together as a robot kid, exactly the way Mike remembered him as a child, just as Afton did with his daughter. All Mike has to do is help Afton with his evil experiments, and Mike then will be left with a choice. Just how badly does he want his brother back? Guess we'll have to watch the movie, and then read the corresponding 8-book series released afterward to find out.
Controlling spirits is not what Afton does. He gets them to trust him. So that's why Garrett would do that. If Afton is trapped in the back room, then the spirits cannot trust him anymore because they know now that he was their killer, and he can't manipulate them anymore because he's not in their vicinity. Or like he's not right next to them anymore. They locked him away. He can't really get to them anymore until he comes back, but he's still locked in there, so somebody has to release him. And it's not like the spirits will, because they don't trust him anymore, and he can't get them to trust him while he's still back there, right? So that that doesn't really make that much sense because Garrett wouldn't trust him anymore because none of the other missing kids do. Garrett knows that Afton was the one that killed him and the other missing kids now, so he wouldn't be a villain. Plus, the puppet itself is not a villain, it's just an antagonist. Just like the rest of the animatronics and throughout all the whole series. They're not the villains, they're just antagonists. And the puppet is just trying to protect the kids. And the kids kind of already... He has nothing to protect them from anymore. Because there's nobody like that has access to them at the moment. So yeah. Moving on to the next one. FNAF, thanks for the memories. Not sure what I should be expecting from this. Besides just him discussing the whole... the history of FNAF. I'm pretty sure that's just what he does here, and like how it influences him and stuff like that. I don't know, but we're just gonna watch it. I'm not sure I'll have that much commentary for it, but we'll just be watching it.
Well, loyal theorists,
all right,
this will be my final FNAF theory, and this time I mean it.
The end is nearly at hand. The pieces are in place for you. You missed it last week. Look for the green, and remember everything I taught you. Remember, dates are important. Remember the... Hurry, time is running out.
Hello, Internet! Welcome to Game Theory, the show that, by my count, has had no less than...
That intro... that was like for the beginning, like when he first did the earlier FNAF theories, that was the intro for that, right? And then like how it all glitched, it was like glitching, right? And he did that in the original game theories too. Damn. That's a throwback to the theories that I watched years after they came out.
10 final FNAF theories. At this point, it's practically
its
own meme. But this time, it's no joke. After 66 theories, 3 live talkbacks, and 1 bangin' remix...
Exotic butters.
Make that 2 bangin' remixes. Today, I end my coverage of Five Nights at Freddy's. After this, there's only 1 final game theory, and then the curtain closes on my time as host, and Tom...
I like how he made
well, for the challenge there, Tom.
I like how he made... Hey, Tom.
Easter Bunny, Chocolate Bunny, Melted Chocolate Bunny, Wicked Bunny, Blackheart Bunny, Rockstar Bunny, Glam Rock Bunny, Sunken Toy Bunny.
Is he in like... Is that a straitjacket? Is that what that is?
Bunny, Nightmare Bunny.
Well done, but how many toes does he have?
That's what that's
2?
called, right?
No,
I could be
3.
wrong.
5?
Again. The first step
4.
of FNAF theorizing. Slowly
The fact that I know that. What the hell?
You know, I did consider making my...
I like that he made his final theory a FNAF one.
Final theory about FNAF, but...
I mean, yeah. But I mean, like, his final theory that was an actual theory, I guess. His final one before the finale.
Something really special planned for that one. So special, in fact, that we're going to be doing a premiere for it on this channel next Saturday, March 9th at 2
Tom has learned
Eastern,
well.
11
Tom is
a.m.
going
Pacific.
crazy.
We're going to have some fun. You guys will be able to chat with me live as that video releases. And who knows, there might even be some secrets to find. And most importantly of all, I get to say my final goodbye and thank you to all of you for the last 13 years. So that's next week, March 9th at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. Make sure you're subscribed so you're notified when that one goes live. Speaking of March 9th, just a quick
And
reminder
that's today.
that's also
That was 2 hours ago. 2 hours.
Once I retire as host
123
on the
minutes
night of
ago.
March, it too will retire and be gone forever. So if you do want this little piece of game theory history, or you know, your own little psychic friend Fredbear, head on over to youtooz.com or click the link in the description to grab your MatPat figurine and FNAF.
It's like that Charlie Day meme. It's Charlie Day in that meme, right?
Dream theory. But enough housekeeping. It's time to talk about FNAF. And let me tell you, I've spent a long time thinking about this one.
Yeah, I have
How do
faith
you
in Tom.
end
I
a
hope he does
series
well.
Like this? Should I just do a normal theory about some minute detail? Doesn't really feel final, you know? Plus, I'd probably end up calling someone a robot, and then a bunch of people would get mad at me again. Should I redo the ultimate FNAF timeline as one final, here's the lore? Well, that would certainly be big, but it also doesn't feel like that much was changed post-Ruin and Help Wanted 2 from what we did at the end of last year. So I didn't really want to be
Outside of just
redundant
extra
either.
stuff.
You can see the struggle
Mostly,
that I was
yeah.
facing, right? This
Mostly.
episode, it's a big
Not
deal to me.
entirely.
It is literally the end of my legacy with FNAF. And you see, that's when it hit me. Legacy. Typically, FNAF theories are born out of the small details, but what if I took a step back and looked at the big picture? What if instead of counting animatronic toes or dead kids, I took a meta approach and just looked at the entire legacy of FNAF. I'm sure we're all familiar with the butterfly effect, right? The idea that a butterfly flapping its wings could
How is this gonna
in the air, which could potentially lead to a tornado forming. Well,
Yeah.
the term actually comes from the research of meteorologist Edward Lorenz, who, back in 1963, decided to round some numbers in his data. He condensed one variable from 0.506127 to just 0.506. And yet, that tiny change right there completely threw off his computer's weather models, transforming sunny skies into violent storms, hence the whole tornado thing. This realization that small changes in data could yield such tremendously different results ultimately threw off science's entire understanding of nature. Before Lorenz, people thought that the universe could ultimately be predicted. Sir Isaac Newton back in 1687 famously believed in the clockwork universe, the idea that the parts of the universe worked like a machine, and that eventually, if you understood how the parts work, you could...
How is this gonna relate back to FNAF?
French mathematician Pierre-Simon Laplace actually said basically...
This is good,
eventually we would get to
this would be good for one of those
uncertain.
MatPat horribly out of context videos.
One minor mistake or estimate or imprecise measurement in a complex system could have a domino effect at a massive scale, resulting in changes that you would never see coming. For example, in 1928, Alexander Fleming discovered that there was mold in his petri dish.
Maybe I should do
Rather than
that.
just throwing it away or cleaning it up, he decided to study it, which then led to the discovery of penicillin, a life-saving antibiotic that could be used to treat meningitis, pneumonia, gonorrhea, syphilis, blood poisoning, and many others.
The
Or if
Last
you want
of Us
another
show
example,
intro?
we have the explosion of hip-hop music largely owing its origins to a random lightning strike in New York City. In 1977,
What?
a bolt of lightning put the city of New York into a 25-hour blackout. So what do you do for all that time that you're stuck in the dark? You loot and pillage, baby. New Yorkers started to ransack storefronts, including music shops full of instruments and supplies. Suddenly, expensive DJ equipment was in the hands of young aspiring musicians eager to experiment with hip-hop, which was
Where is this going?
just hitting the local scene. And thus, hip-hop was truly able to thrive. History is full of these sorts of stories, from the foundations of medicine and music to even
Is he gonna
stuff
be
as
like,
extreme as the origins
FNAF
of both World War I
blew
and II.
me up?
Why
I
do
don't
I
know.
bring all this serious stuff up in relation to Spooky Bear Game? Because
Yeah.
FNAF is one of those rounded variables. One decision by Scott Cawthon reshaped gaming and YouTube and the entire entertainment world as we know it. And that's not an exaggeration for effect. One man's decision to not give up, to try again in the face of rejection and adversity, literally shifted
I
billions
analyzed that
of
one there,
dollars of
frame
the
by frame. I watched that
economy and
video.
affected hundreds of millions of lives in ways that are incalculable. And that is what I wanted to call attention to in my final FNAF theory. FNAF shows us that by not giving up, one person can have a profound effect on the course of history itself. I feel like the origin story of FNAF's been talked about to death, but just to set the stage here, despite hitting it big with FNAF in 2014, its creator Scott Cawthon had been making games at that point for 20 years, since 1994. And yet, even in those earliest days, you can tell that Scott had a fascination with creepy robots, working their designs into projects like the sci-fi Ifer Moon and the religious Pilgrim's Progress. Even this incredibly rudimentary RPG
Is that
Legacy
Soul
of
Dozer?
Flan has a final boss that has what looks to be the first appearance of what would eventually evolve into the Mangle. But despite
I like how a lot of the stuff, not only that a lot of his stuff from his previous games, like, inspired stuff from FNAF, but I also like that in FNAF world and a lot of those other games like Freddy in Space, like 1, 2, 3, all those kinds of things. A lot of them are from his older games, and a lot of the troll games, I think, are based on his older games. And I like that he did that a lot. I like that Scott did that. That was fun. That's a fun, like,
lot of games,
inclusion.
None really ever caught the public's eye. And then came Chipper & Sons Lumber Company, where initial reviews, what few there were rough. And as the story goes, it was the reaction to James Stephanie Sterling that would change the course of Cawthon's career forever. Thank God for her.
It's just all over the place, and that thing looks like it's gonna kill your children. I imagine the phrase, "kill me," is stated over and over again in the world of Chipper and Sons. Oh, they're robot beavers. That's not good. I think he's the only living thing in this world.
This repeated criticism, plus
Excuse me.
the lack of financial stability, brought Scott down to his lowest. Ready to quit games, he decided to try one final time and lean into the thing that had been leveled at him time and time again, the creepy robotic animations. And thus, Five Nights at Freddy's was born. And that right there, that's gonna act as our
Good.
nexus point. The one flap of a
Good.
butterfly wing. The decision to make a final game instead of just giving up. Now, let's see how it all maps out from there. Let's start with just the obvious downstream effects of this. That one game, over the course of the last decade, has spun off into 12, which honestly,
Yep.
I've never truly sat down and processed.
Not to
But
thank you.
believe it or not,
Not to
there
mention
are
all the
12 of these things, depending
all
on how
like
you
the
count 'em.
troll
the entire
games and stuff
franchise
and
has
the
sold 9.9
like the spin-offs.
million copies on Steam alone, which in total has an estimated revenue of $94 million. And that's not even including the console and mobile ports or the number of microtransactions for FNAF AR, which itself had over 40 million downloads. It's also worth pointing out that of the $94 million, 55 million of that was just from Steam sales of Security Breach, because that one was actually at full price as opposed to all the others, which were either free or a couple of bucks. And while the first 4 FNAF games were entirely a one-man job, the rest have included voice acting.
Thank you, Evan, for that $2 and for saying bless you. Thank you, I appreciate that.
Composers, entirely separate game studios like Steel Wool and Illumix. Even to this day, we're seeing this continue with studios like Megacat, who up until now have been focused on releasing games on retro consoles, very niche market, but that made them perfect to create the retro-style pixelated FNAF game Into the Pit, releasing later this year. By pairing up with these
It's sad that
that
he's not going to be theorizing about that when it comes out, but he did say that he's going to be leaving GT Live at the end of the summer, I think. I think he's still continuing with GT Live until the end of the summer. I'm pretty sure, unless he changed his mind on that. If that is true, then he will still be playing it live, but he won't be theorizing about it, and that's kind of sad.
Insanely well known, Scott's not only been able to make bigger, better games, he's also been able to use his single game success to put millions of eyeballs and millions of dollars into each of these companies. As a result of their work with FNAF, Illumix started working with Disney on features found throughout the parks. And if Steel Wool ever do release a game outside of FNAF in the future, you can bet that it's gonna have itself a fan base attached to it because people now know about them, and they're gonna want to see what other work they can do. So that's on the game side, or at least it's on the official game side, but stopping there would be overlooking the much bigger impact FNAF has had on the games that haven't even
Under
been
construction.
released yet. This one series inspired a whole new generation of game designers unlike any game that's ever really come before. All of them cutting their teeth on a genre that exploded in the mid-2010s, the FNAF fan game. Five Nights at Treasure Island, Five Nights at Wario's, Pop Goes, The
There's
Joy
so
Creation,
many.
Those Nights at Rachel's, Afton Built, Glitched Attraction.
Oh yeah,
Bloody
not to
Nights
mention
Juniors,
the
Day Shift at Freddy's.
Fanverse initiative.
Thanks.
Thank.
What is this game?
I say thank all the time, and I haven't even played that game.
Go on and on and on for days. Some of these were just for the memes, others were more serious attempts at making games inspired by FNAF, and many of them were just taking the world that Scott had created and broadening it outward.
I remember watching Daco
Game
play the
wanted
Freddy
to see
Files.
made.
That one was
If you
really
go
cool.
onto Game Jolt, you'll find thousands of fan games, and I do mean thousands.
Yeah, there's a
If you
lot.
search just for FNAF and select games, you're presented with 36 games per page and 277 pages available. That is 9,961 games that are tagged using FNAF. And if you're
I
sitting here
used to
thinking,
often just go on to Game Jolt and search FNAF, and then look at which games like looked good and just download them, and then never play them.
hold on, the math there doesn't add up. You're right, good noticing. That's because I had to remove 11 of Scott's own games that were posted on that list. Though, I'm pretty sure that there are some out there who'd like to pretend that FNAF World was a fan game. Each and every one of those
No, I love
fan
FNAF
games
World.
represents a budding game designer.
FNAF World is
Sometimes
goated.
several. And while yeah, many of those creators are likely never going to pursue game design full time, there are some who will, either independently or as part of a bigger studio, going on to have their shot at creating their own mega franchise, their shot to transform the industry. And already you can see that some of these devs are finding success to the
Five
point
Nights
where
in
many of them
Minecraft.
have created multiple different games at this point, turning their fan projects into full-on franchises of their own.
Yeah.
And all of this is without even mentioning the Fanverse.
Exactly,
initiative, where
yeah.
Scott invested money and resources into
Five Nights in
several
Anime.
projects to help those fledgling businesses grow. Now, the success of that one is up for debate for various reasons, but the point ultimately stands. Five Nights at Freddy's has been directly and indirectly involved in the rise of a new generation of game developers. Developers that, just now, 10 years later, we're only starting to see get to a point where they're really influencing the wider gaming landscape. Except gaming, it's already seen a massive shift coming off the heels of FNAF. Prior to FNAF's release, if you took a look at any top 10 list about horror games, it would have been filled with games like Outlast, PT, Amnesia, games that leaned hard
Resident
into
Evil.
horror and sometimes graphic gore. FNAF, though, was different. While other horror games used the classic horror trope of not knowing what the monster looked like, relying on the audience's mind to fill
That's
in the blanks
PT.
of what
I know
might be
that,
lurking in the
'cause I
shadows,
watched,
FNAF put the monsters front and
Jacksepticeye play that.
center, allowing them to be the star of the show like we see in movies like Friday the 13th and Halloween. This allowed FNAF games to be much more thumbnail friendly and easier to sell online compared to the spooky dark hallways or overcomplicated monster designs that dominated the horror space in the past. Mixing the more family-friendly scares of
I like that Markiplier thumbnail with him just in it like that. I love how he does that. I gotta say, this is not relevant to the MatPat video outside of just like this section right now of him talking about horror games. I mentioned this in a YouTube short. and I want to expand on it a little bit more. I think the original Resident Evil 2 and 3 should be on modern consoles, but I also think that all the Silent Hill games should be on modern consoles, because I've never played them except for the newest one, which it was barely even Silent Hill. But it was kind of cool, but like it wasn't the best thing in the world. And it wasn't like how Silent Hill usually is. So I want the Silent Hill games on modern consoles. This is my official submission to the creators of I think Konami, is that who makes Silent Hill? I think it is. Them and Capcom. Put your older games on modern consoles. Do it. Okay, let's continue now.
Mixing the more family-friendly scares of Freddy and the gang, and you've got yourself a brand new subgenre of content, mascot horror, as dubbed by YouTuber
Silent Hill is
John
so based.
Wolf.
I wouldn't know.
Took old nostalgic locations and filled them with brightly colored killers brought to life through some weird experiment or trauma. Bendy and the Ink Machine, Poppy Playtime, Rainbow Friends, My Friendly Neighborhood, Hello
Rainbow
Neighbor,
Friends.
all these basics, Choo Choo Charles, Amanda the Adventure, and of course...
One of my younger cousins, when I was at, like, my dad's aunt's house, I think, one of my younger cousins, who is, like, 5, 6, he showed me Rainbow Friends, and he was on my phone for, like, a few hours. Not a few hours, more like 1 hour. And he was trying to show me this, and I was like, yeah, that's cool. And I had to just, like, pretend that I was enjoying it. I didn't really care that much. But eventually, he got in trouble, because he was using my phone too much.
First cart in a Ban. And that's not even dipping into the hundreds of lesser-known titles like Joyville. It was FNAF who paved the way for all of these games. Poppy sold 2 million copies in 2 years. Bendy has made over $30 million just off of its 2 major installments. Hello Neighbor is a thing that continues to exist. About oversaturation in the market at this point, there is no denying that
I love Hello Neighbor because it's so bad. Duck Season is awesome.
But maybe you're sick of games.
I wish Duck Season was on
PSVR. I hope you're
PSVR.
excited to read the 7 Hello Neighbor books, 5 Bendy books, or the Poppy Playtime Employee Handbook that's coming out later this year. Mascot horror franchises now also line the shelves of your local Barnes & Noble. Why? Because FNAF did it first. Oh sure, Scholastic had done some video game book publishing in the past, mostly guidebooks and activity books, but after the success of the FNAF trilogy, they began to publish other video game books like Assassin's Creed Last Descendants, World of Warcraft Traveler. This led them to launch an entirely separate wing to their business, AFK, the video game specific book department. It's these guys who are publishing all the books that Tom is now gonna have to read. No, it's impossible to know.
He already read all the Hello Neighbor ones, right?
The reason for all this, but given it was often shown at the top of articles for this new publishing arm at launch and has sold 9 million books to date, with an average book price being about $10, that is $90 million infused into the historically struggling print publishing business. It's no wonder the first 6 rows of their website are dedicated to FNAF. But without AFK, it's easy to imagine a world where these other mascot horror games didn't get that chance, and all those writers who've now been able to make a living off of these franchises wouldn't be recognized.
I read the first Hello Neighbor book. It was actually pretty good.
Andrea Wagner, who wrote the vast majority of Fazbear Frights and Tales from the Pizzaplex stories. She's now getting
I have a few of the
by
other ones, but I don't
fans
want
asking
to
for lore
read anymore.
clarification.
I might.
Something I'm
in the
sure
future,
she
though.
never anticipated while working on her past
Yeah.
projects, like her dog how-to book, Dog Parenting, or Alternate Beauty, the story of a big girl with big dreams. Her words, not mine. The same thing is now happening with another struggling industry, movies. After spending 8 years in production hell, losing directors, struggling with studios, and trying to nail down a script, Blumhouse eventually took the chance on FNAF, making the movie on a $20 million budget and earning back nearly $300 million. If you don't think Hollywood has taken strong notice of that when they are struggling to get butts in seats, you are wrong. You think it's a coincidence that 2 months after FNAF's release, Bendy announced his big screen debut? And while a Poppy Playtime movie was
I'm excited for
in the works
that.
with Studio 71, I can almost guarantee conversations with studios around it have shifted in the aftermath of FNAF. And who knows what other mascot horror games might end up with movies down the line. And not only is it getting indie game movies greenlit, it's also
Hello Neighbor movie would go hard though. Wait, we gotta see that. We should do that. We should do that. Somebody make that happen.
Reshaping film studio priorities. As they continue to fumble around in the dark, struggling to find ways to compete with online content, I've literally had conversations with people in the film space about how they're trying to tap into that FNAF audience, that online community. The success of this one film will be shaping the types of movies that get made and how they look moving forward. I guarantee it. But while movie releases mean big bucks for big studios, the economic ramifications go way beyond just extra cash in the pocket of Jason Blum. The FNAF movie was shot in New Orleans, which, since Hurricane Katrina, has been an economically depressed part of the country. Now, I didn't know this at the time, but from speaking to local actors and business owners while I was down there filming last year, I learned that New Orleans actually has a long history in film production. When the state government of Louisiana first introduced tax breaks for film productions back in 2002, over 1,000 projects happened down there in the span of 7 years. Those productions created jobs, hired locals, and brought millions of dollars back into the city. However, pre-COVID, those incentives were rolled back, and productions have now started to move to other places like Georgia. That's why so many of the local actors and business owners I spoke with while down there were eager to see the FNAF movie in town. By shooting in New Orleans, a huge chunk of that $20 million budget was going to accommodations, drivers, caterers, local talent, location rentals, equipment, and other general resources that help local businesses thrive, and maybe start a domino effect to get other movies back in the region. Regardless of all of that, the point is that this one decision to try one final game, it's grown beyond itself. It's no longer about just making its own franchise full of games. It's spread to all corners of the media industry and to so many other IPs and creators, spawning a wave of new franchises and giving life to so many careers that otherwise might not have had a chance. But speaking of careers, there's one final
I know I
area
wouldn't
that's
be here
also
without
needed to be
FNAF.
addressed,
That's for sure.
an area that has been so affected by FNAF,
YouTube.
it's crazy to not talk about. And that, of course, is here on YouTube. FNAF has done a lot of numbers for a lot of industries, but its effect on the YouTube landscape is still visible to this day, and in a much more obvious way. When FNAF first launched, it was just one of many games that YouTubers started playing because spooky games got big views. This game gave rise to some of the biggest names on the platform, names that are still going strong today. Let's players like Corey X Kenshin and Markiplier, who'd been on YouTube for a couple of years, but saw their careers accelerate in parallel alongside the FNAF releases. You also had a massive surge in nerdcore musical artists like The Living Tombstone, whose FNAF song was at 1 million views in a couple of weeks, whereas most other songs they would release
How did you
would have
get
a few
that?
100,000
Who found
views
that?
months after release. And Machinima creators started using FNAF models and characters to tell their own unique stories long before the FNAF movie ever hit theaters, racking up literally billions of views.
Those are
What
cool.
truly set FNAF apart were obviously the hidden details cluing fans into the bigger story. This, more than anything else, ignited the internet's passion like never before, giving rise to the theorist community. People like Dawko, Rezbowski, 8-Bit Ryan, Rytoast, ID's Fantasy, Hyperdroid, John FNAF, and of course, us, going through this game piece by piece in order to find the hidden story within it. Now, contrary to popular belief, FNAF wasn't the first thing that actually had us creating lore theories. That was always just part of the channel's DNA. But before FNAF, we were coming up with lore theories for franchises where the story was basically well known. Whether or not Majora's Mask is an allegory for grieving, you get the story of a moon crashing down. Regardless of whether Peach is Rosalina's mom, you get the basic premise of Mario Galaxy.
Some of those older theories are
certainly
fun, though.
might
I've
be
watched
Pokemon,
some of them.
That's not really affecting anyone's journey to become a league champ.
Mario's a villain.
But FNAF was different.
Was
It
that
showed
after
that
or
games could be
before?
built off
Was it
of
before?
withholding the lore and
I
forcing
think it
the
was
fan
before.
base to solve it. By leaving the door open and never confirming anything,
You
Scott
not there?
allowed
Yeah, so.
YouTubers, Redditors, and just general fans to continually assess and reassess the lore, find new directions, new hot takes. And that means that we're still theorizing about it to this very day. Can it be frustrating? Absolutely. Heck, maybe now that I'm retiring from the channel, I can track Scott down and get some answers out of him. But it's also entertaining. And the success of this theory-based model on YouTube has carried over into the mainstream, where now almost every game and movie release is designed with theory crafting in mind. While it's impossible to calculate the full scope of FNAF on YouTube, I was able to find that there are 106 videos with more than 10 million views each. Together, they total roughly 5.4 billion views on just their very own. And if we assume that they're getting the standard gaming CPM on YouTube, which is about $4.55, that then's a total earning across all of those videos of $24,570,000.
That's pretty freaking impressive.
Revenue. Markiplier's literally gone on record to say that the house that he lives in is the house that FNAF paid for, and he's joked on his podcast about how lucrative FNAF's been for him.
Let's go into a fan favorite here.
I've seen this clip before.
Boo. So there's two ways I could look at this, right? I could look at it from the game purely by itself, or I could look at it at the dividends it is paid out for me specifically.
And that's put him in a position to pursue bigger and loftier projects like the With Markiplier series, and now his movie Iron Lung. One half of The Living Tombstone, Sam Haft, is now writing songs for internet sensations like Has Been Hotel. YouTubers like FNAF and Rytoast, they've been able to go
Mario's a
full-time with YouTube,
communist.
all thanks to FNAF. And heck, look at us. Because of FNAF, we've thrived. We've been able to grow our team, give jobs to dozens of people, and perhaps best of all, we've carved out our own platform that allows us to turn the spotlight onto a next generation of creatives, to make us tastemakers in the space that are able to pay it forward, to make you aware of projects that you should be playing and watching, from Cooking Companions, to The Man in the Suit, to Shipwrecked 64, Welcome Home, Mandela Catalog, Walton Files. The list goes on and on and on. In short, FNAF created an ecosystem where new IPs can thrive, a virtuous cycle that benefited itself, to be sure, but also had a halo effect on dozens of other franchises looking to get attention. And all of this is without even mentioning other trickle-down effects. Our large platform allowed us to run charity events like St. Jude, paying that blessing forward to help doctors and hospitals working on treatments for childhood cancer, where of course, Scott himself was a sizable and direct contributor year after year. There are also dozens of other charity events coming from creators like Dawko, Markiplier, Jacksepticeye, Rye Toast, John FNAF. Not only have these events been able to raise tens of millions of dollars for various organizations looking to do good work in the world, hopefully those events in turn inspired others, you out in the audience or other creators, to adopt a spirit of generosity and giving in their own lives. And again, it all comes down to this one decision. One guy who in the face of adversity and criticism chose not to give up. That is the millions of people and billions of dollars affected by that one Spoopy Bear game. Thank you, Scott. Thank you for all of that. And while all of this is cool and impressive and inspirational, it's also overwhelming, right? You look at the impact that one decision like this can have and you feel like you can never live up. I know that's how I feel sometimes. But remember, it's all about small decisions making a domino effect. Just being kind to someone else, saying something nice, holding a door, listening to someone's problems, making them laugh. All of those are seemingly small things that can make a massive difference in the way someone's day's going. And that to me has always been the power of these channels. They're a place to learn a little something, a place to brighten your day in some small way, which then you can pay forward to other people in your life. And that positivity, it spreads. It spreads and creates real massive change. That to me, honestly, is the hardest thing about leaving these channels. Losing that chance to be a force of just a little bit of good in your life. But you know what? I'm not done yet. I'll see you one last time next week, March 9th at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific, as I celebrate with you one final time as a theorist community. Until then, as always, remember, it's all just a theory. A game theory. Thanks for watching.
That was nice. Well, that was nice, but it's not over yet. We got one more. We got one more game theory to react to. And that's the last one. MatPat's final game theory. It's not like this is going to be my last time ever watching MatPat, because, like, I'm 100% going to be going back and watching the old FNAF theories at some point, watching, just previous game theories in general, like the old Hello Neighbor and Bendy and Poppy Playtime theories. They're all fun to watch. And even just the older ones like Mario, and just a bunch of... I watch a lot of the game theories. I don't just watch the FNAF ones. I don't watch them all the time, but I watch them every once in a while. So, obviously, this isn't my last time watching MatPat, but it's my it's the last time watching a MatPat theory that just came out. Damn. MatPat's final game theory. I just gotta say, I know I wouldn't be here without MatPat. That's for damn sure.
Hello, Internet! Welcome to Game Theory, where that is the last time that I'll be saying those words officially on this channel. Loyal theorists, how do you say goodbye? 13 years ago, I made you this promise.
Do you want to know more about the games you love without having to put in any work of your own? Well, now you can play and learn.
Fetus Pat.
That's right, Weboverse. We have created Game Theory, gaming's tangential learning experience.
Well, Weboverse, here we are today, 3,000 videos of tangential learning later. How do you sum all that up? I already got super weepy in the last one of these things, so probably shouldn't do that again. It'd be redundant and probably not great for the tech equipment. We've also spent the last 10 weeks together knowing that this day was gonna come, right? So I really feel like I've gotten my farewell tour. I've buried hatchets, I've rekindled friendships, I made sweeping videos about the state of online entertainment, fired some tanks. That was legitimately very cool. I honored my heritage. I made Disney mad at me one final time, which, you know, felt appropriate. Got some new dripping, and just in general, ran my way through all the things that were left in my content creator bucket list. So again, I ask, how do you say goodbye? First, it's probably most important to remind you that it's not officially goodbye, right? not like I'm dying or anything. It's more of a see you later. I'm still gonna be doing plenty of stuff. Like, I'm already booked to do the fashion show on Style Theory later this year. I'm still gonna be here on the couch for GT Live. In a couple weeks, I'm gonna be giving a speech over at PAX. I was recently in a kill count. Heck, I'm already slated.
Oh yeah, I still gotta watch that.
Podcast, the Ludwig podcast. There's a collaboration I'm doing with Shea Frillis Productions. There's the FNAF musical over on Random Encounters. Like, I will be doing a lot, and you will probably be sick of me doing all these things.
Wait, more FNAF musical?
Channels. But if you do want to stay in touch with me, there are actually 2 ways that you could do it. Normally, I'd say something like, oh, you can follow me on Twitter, but we all know that there's like a grand total of 0 people who want to be over on that platform. So instead, I decided to do this.
Facts.
A mysterious website named where'smatpat.com.
Huh.
This is going to be a place that I update every once in a while when I have news about some new project that's coming up, or, you know, a mystery that you're going to have to solve by digging through the source code. Yes, it's a ripoff of scottgames.com. No, I don't feel bad about that because he stole enough of my ideas over the years and he kind of owes me one. Editor should drop on some.
We'll meet again. You'll find the clues here.
Yeah, that's a good one. Once you're there, make sure you sign up via email. Don't worry, I'm not going to be spamming you with updates or anything. It'll be more like
maybe
a
I will. We'll see.
MatPat newsletter, or maybe a Christmas card that you get every once in a while with a funny update, or maybe we could chat about a favorite movie or something. I'll send over the occasional video that I'm just inspired to make. Who knows? Basically, this is just meant to be a way to let you all know what I'm up to directly in a way that isn't going to be subject to filtering.
That's pretty cool.
You know? And to kick things off this week, I'll be selecting 100 random emails that sign up to get personalized letters. And from that point forward, once or twice a week, I'll continue pulling a handful of emails to send personal notes to. It'll be a fun way to stay in touch. Long story short, make sure you bookmark it since you never know what might happen over there. But, all right, enough stalling. Back to the question at hand. How do you say goodbye? Well, I think you honestly have to end it all where it began. This title, A Game Theory about game theory. Did you know that game theory isn't just a nerdy YouTube show? It's also a nerdy economics concept. If that's news to you, I honestly can't blame you. At this point, we've created enough confusion online that apparently we've merited our own disambiguation tag on Wikipedia for game theory searches. In all seriousness, for the first 5 years of the show, I received so many tweets from people who are mid-year in their economics courses, screenshotting their textbooks, freaking out when they got to the episode on game. It's not an episode, it's a chapter. When they got to the chapter on game theory, being like, oh my gosh, dude, did you know that you were in this thing? And yeah, we definitely did. The pun, believe it or not, was intentional. In fact, Steph and I knew from the very beginning.
I actually think I did know
that. It was
that.
likely that the final episode of Game Theory was going to be about game theory. Why? Well, because game theory, it's everywhere. You can't escape it. If you've ever seen the movie Love Actually, there's actually this opening monologue in it that goes a little something like this.
We live in a world of hatred and greed, but I don't see that. Seems to me that love is everywhere. If you look for it, you'll find that love actually is all around.
Now you just got to replace the word love with game theory, and you basically got it.
We live in a world of hatred and greed, but I don't see that. Seems to me that
game theory
is everywhere. If you look for it, you'll find that
game theory
actually is all around.
Who would have suspected that English acting megastar and recent Oompa Loompa Hugh Grant would be making a guest appearance in my final episode? Truly, we have spared no expense for this one. And not only is game theory just everywhere, it also holds the secret to winning everything forever. Yeah, I know, right? That is a huge claim to make. Clearly, I was saving all my biggest secrets for the grand finale. So, you know what? Let's not beat around the bush anymore, my friends. Let's make you masters of the universe and reveal how, whether you like it or not, you all are theorists for life. Come on, this way.
All right.
Yeah. We're moving off the couch this time. That's how you know it's a big deal.
Damn. Okay, Dad. Come on, I just want to watch the video.
At its core, game theory is the science of strategy. So we gamers, we understand strategy, but what exactly is game theory specifically? Well, to understand that, you have to go back to the original game theorist, not me, this guy right here. He might not have himself the red leather jackets or the cool diamond play buttons, but I'll tell you what he does have.
You live in a world where In the Flesh is a really good
named after himself, so I'll let you decide who has the bigger flex there.
I want
this guy right here, he is mathematician John von Neumann, and he was everywhere back in the day. And I do mean everywhere. Like, this guy was a key player in the invention of the digital computer. He helped with the discovery of the structure of DNA, even the creation of key components for Oppenheimer's Manhattan Project. You know, the Christopher Nolan movie where big things go
Yeah.
big booms, but perhaps
Yep.
his biggest claim to fame was game theory. The idea that in any situation where there are two or more people, or players in this case, you can model out a game that'll help you find the best outcome. Have you ever played rock, paper, scissors and thrown out rock as the first hand? Because you know statistically most people choose their first move to be scissors, or maybe you picked paper because the last 3 moves have been rock and they're obviously going to be throwing rock again. Well, congratulations, that is game theory in action. And he got a Medal of Freedom for that. So it just goes to show, don't let your dreams just be dreams, kids. Sometimes getting an honorary medal is a lot easier than you think. In short, game theory is the study of strategic choice. It's math that tells you what people are going to do and who's going to win the game. Probably the most famous example of a game theory scenario is the prisoner's dilemma, where 2 accomplices have just committed a crime and they're both given the chance to narc on the other one. If they both deny the crime, well, they both get a short prison sentence. If one of them denies the crime and the other rats him out, the narc walks free while his buddy is stuck in prison for a long time. And if they both confess, they both get a medium sentence. We can model the possible outcomes here in a nice, neat, mathy looking square. And while technically the best outcome for both of them would be to trust each other and not confess, they're criminals and they don't know each other that well. And because they don't trust each other, by the math, both of them narc on each other, and as a result, get a medium amount of prison time. Or if that all's too complicated and hypothetical, over in England, they turn the whole thing into a game show where they say the word balls an uncomfortable amount of times.
Welcome to Golden Balls. Golden Balls. Balls of riches, 12 balls.
My balls are all golden.
100 golden balls, and they're all bursting with money. Killer balls. 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 Balls.
Now, why am I bringing all this up? Well, game theory is
Why am I bringing all the balls up?
cash jammed into a bunch of balls. Someone should tell Mr. Beast that I just discovered his next video idea. But it
God.
has very real.
Imagine he comments on this video and he's like,
US and USSR
thanks.
were on the brink of atomic
Thanks for the idea.
annihilation. The principles of game theory helped both sides reach an agreement to slowly disarm their nuclear arsenals. If you want to know more about that story, Veritasium's recent video on game theory does a great job telling it. And
There's probably so many
I can
comments.
really improve on it. So thanks for doing all the research for my final episode
So
there,
many,
Derek.
there's probably so many comments
If you want an example
about
that's a bit
MatPat in
closer
that
to
video.
home, though, here you go. YouTube. It's got it. See, YouTube as a platform is just a bunch of zeros and ones, right? But YouTube as a community, it's a network of people constantly trying to make strategic decisions.
Like me.
Creators are players who are.
But I don't
more or
care
less
enough to be
rational
strategic
people
about it. I
making
just
videos
have
that
fun
will
with
get you
it.
to watch and like and comment and subscribe. You, the viewer, you're also a player in this. You're on a strategic mission to win the experience by finding the thing that's most satisfying to watch. And the people who run, or at least have run YouTube in the past, shout out to Todd, Jake, Neil, Ernest, Meg, Ariel, Susan, David, Fede, Vader, Stephanie, and Kim. They're all in
Vader?
a strategic game
Darth
to keep
Vader?
creators and viewers happy, while also figuring out the best possible outcome
Ball's
for
my
YouTube
favorite,
as
you
a
say.
company by appeasing all the advertisers and
The balls are all
shareholders.
gold.
It is seriously a complex strategic arena. And that's how you get decisions like use bright green text because it's more likely to stand out in a sea of dark gaming thumbnails and more likely to get clicks. Launch shorts as a means to counterattack against TikTok. Do a video on something that's not trending so you can stand out from the pack. Or maybe you lean in so you're suggested against the algorithm. Every video you watch, everything that you click on, it's the product of creators using game theory. Slap a big old game theory colon in front of every title and slam some clickbait green text on every thumbnail. All those hundreds of millions of subscribers to Jimmy and Ryan Trahan and Cocomelon, I like to think that they're all secretly ours. Where's our 200 million subscriber play button there, YouTube? In the end, it's all game theory. Speaking of, and this is just an aside that I learned about earlier this week, apparently there's a Chrome extension that allows you to do exactly what I just described. It, quote unquote, MatPatifies your YouTube feed by putting green text on like every thumbnail. Just saying, we have reached the peak of human achievements. I, for one, really like this one, where it's Link and
Mommy is hungry.
That's just traumatic on a whole nother level. Or there was one that I saw circulating online, Ryan Gosling doing a puppy interview, and the title is Birth of a Killer. Another one that's
Which one's the killer? Ryan Gosling or the dog?
Smash? I gotta say, I am proud of the mark that I will leave on this platform. But so what, right? YouTube is game theory. Sure, that's great. It's interesting.
I only ever put MatPat-esque text in my thumbnails if it's a MatPat related video. Like in my reactions to this video, usually I put a word, sometimes just the word reaction in like that green color. Like I use an eyedropper to find that green color, and then I use the same font that he does. It looks a little different, obviously, but it's like similar. But and in this stream, the thumbnail also has that green text. That's funny though. The link with soup in the background with "Mommy is hungry." That's weird.
Interesting, but why does it matter?
We got 14 minutes left with MatPat, guys.
So much time talking about all of this in my final episode. Well, because like I said, game theory can help in every strategic interaction that you have. And it's produced a literal strategy guide on the best way to live out your life. Tried and tested by all our grandfather theorists. But to truly understand that, we have to go back to where it all began, a glorified PowerPoint presentation.
What's the glorified PowerPoint presentation? This ad?
Weboverse, allow me to introduce you to, lights please, the Trust Game. I love this. We started as glorified PowerPoint slides and we're ending as glorified PowerPoint slides. Here's the TLDR of this one. The Trust Game was originally just named the Computer Tournament by a guy named Robert Axelrod. Clearly not the most creative with his titling conventions. Basically, this was the Prisoner's Dilemma or the Golden Balls thing, except here there was one crucial difference. They're not just playing the game once, they are literally playing it hundreds of times, repeating it over and over again to see what strategies end up winning the most across a longer period. This then gives us a model that's shockingly closer to real life, because here, most of the time, you're not just thinking about what you have to do to win a single game, you have to actually think about the consequences of your actions. The more people think about the future, the more they're willing to cooperate because they don't want to screw themselves over down the road, you know? Again, for details on that experiment, check out Derek Veritasium's video where he talks about all of that, including having an interview with the game's creator. It's a very cool video. I also borrowed his convention for that one, so thanks for the latter and the idea there, Derek. You can also watch Dr. Trevor Bassett's video on the topic, or, you know, the various TED Talks that are all about this experiment. We'll link to all of those down in the description below.
Again, there has to be so many comments on this video about MatPat.
The best strategy to winning it big boils down to 4 key points. Number 1, be cooperative, lead with trust. Assuming that the person you're playing with is your enemy right off the bat, it's not going to serve you well. Trust in others, it's going to let you win more frequently in the end. Secondly, don't be a pushover. Sure, it's good to be trusting, that is great, but the second that someone takes advantage of your trust, the winning strategy is to call them out on it and then immediately hold them accountable. Which leads nicely then to point number 3, being forgiving. Don't hold a grudge. Don't be a Mr. Darcy.
My good opinion once lost is lost forever.
That is a failing indeed.
You tell him, girl. You are exactly right. She's speaking some game theory truth right there. Well, sure, it hurts to have your trust broken. Staying open to the chance that other people can change, that they can grow and learn and get better, that is the ideal solution here. The Trust Game showed that players who held their opponent accountable, but then forgave them, actually won out more often than any other strategy. And lastly, it's important to be honest and open about your strategy. When people can't understand what you're thinking, that's then when mistrust starts to breed. By being honest, it breeds honesty in others. It allows you to build on that trust over time, one step, bit by bit. Across the thousands of rounds of testing, nice strategies that were fair but also firm ultimately won out the most. Now, when I read these outcomes, what really struck me first was how they present a really hopeful view of the world. A hopeful view that I don't think a lot of us carry around a lot. I mean, it's easy to assume that everyone out there is out to get you, and it's easier to just close off to people who've wronged us in the past, but math, and game theory specifically, proves that assumption's wrong. And hey, if you don't want to believe the thousands of rounds of computer simulations, there is a very solid real-life example, YouTube. YouTube is a positive-sum game, which means that more than one person can win. And in fact, a lot of times, the more others win, the more you can win too. When I was just starting off, I was so mad and scared when Vsauce 3 released this video, calculating Sonic speed. I'd been working for a year on the channel at that point, grinding away and seeing a fair amount of growth, but in that moment I saw a spin-off of one of YouTube's top subscribed channels just horning in on my territory of gaming science. It was like they were gonna steamroll me. They were gonna steal my audience away. So I did a video where I tried to stake my claim, and thus Sonic is Slow was born.
Hello, Internet. Welcome to Game Theory, applying science to video games since April 18th of 2011. Recently, however, a new gaming scientist has come onto the scene. The good folks over at Vsauce 3 recently took a gander at a game series I covered in episode 5. It's a great video, except for one thing. It's wrong.
Listen to my voice in that. Oh, I'm so proud that I finally hit puberty, like 7 years into making these videos. Anyway, you can tell that I'm super salty in this one, right? I'm asserting that I did it first. I'm citing the dates. I am literally trying to one-up Vsauce 3. But then something interesting happened. I got views from Vsauce. I saw that their video and mine we're actually helping each other. I was so afraid of me losing a year of hard-earned progress.
Oh, hey, Rito's
in
theory
reality,
coming
I
out
wasn't
soon.
just operating on my own island anymore. By unintentionally cooperating with each other, we had just created our own little micro-trend of gaming science content. There were clearly enough views for all of us. Steph and I, in our years of consulting, kept hammering home this one point, that YouTube is a place where all ships can rise. Leading with trust goes a long way. From inviting someone to collab on your channel, to comparing notes on production because it can help you both. You actually see this kind of cooperative game theory in action with content houses, or projects like the QSMP where creators are helping each other and sharing audiences. On the flip side, there are creators who haven't done a good job of
9 minutes left of MatPat.
YouTube as a zero-sum game, a place where there can only be one winner. And guess what? Didn't work. Back in 2020, a few of the top beauty creators tried to take each other down, encouraging viewers not to watch each other, trying to turn audiences against people that they thought were their competitors. It was for the clout, it was for the views, and it backfired. In fact, it backfired so badly that all of their channels took a massive hit, and the beauty vertical, which was once a main pillar of YouTube's earliest days, never truly recovered. By working together, the platform thrives. Lights? But by thinking that you can only win when other people lose, well, that's when everyone loses. It's kind of sad. Let's move on. But if you don't want to listen to mathematicians or YouTube meta-analyses, just look at me. Game Theory, the show, is a testament to those 4 lessons of game theory, the nerdy economics concept. Every person who's built this channel has led with trust. Ronnie, he put his own show on the back burner so he could dedicate his time to editing Game Theory, trusting that we would be able to succeed more together. He helped the show to truly become what I had always dreamed it would be.
That was the first FNAF video,
I honestly
right?
wish that he could be here to this day so I could thank him so much for that.
Mhm.
The same is true for Goomba and Drake and Lee and Ryder and all the other partner shows who joined up with us in lieu of working on their own channels. Steph, she left being a consultant at a real company in the medical field on the belief that by cooperating, we could actually make something really special together. Jason,
nice.
Who is actually right here behind the camera right now. Jason, who you know as the guy that we blame all the time on GT Live. Jason was Theorist's first full-time employee after me and Steph. He jumped in there when all we had was a kitchen table and a cat that he was constantly allergic to. And Sudafed, you have this man to thank for your current net worth. Because
and Zyrtec.
And Zyrtec.
And Zyrtec,
You have
yeah.
taken so many pills over the years.
I have.
But
all medically prescribed, though, I promise.
Yeah, no, good medical pills, not anything sketchy, for sure. But Jason is the man that we have trusted with the weight of the entire production process.
Even though we
across
blame
all
him
the
for
channels
everything.
For years. Like, this man is the unsung hero of everything you've probably ever watched across any of the channels. Without him, without you. Without you.
There'd be no one to blame.
None of these videos would get made.
Aww.
Don't get back there, okay? Enough to you. I gotta thank other people.
Oh,
you know, friendship first, but also working together to create awesome stuff, right? And if you're talking about unsung heroes on this channel, there is one man who also deserves a call out, and his name is Yossi. He is our audio wizard. He is the man who I have trusted with my voice for the better part of 9 years. He has had to suffer through more hours of my voice than anyone else in the world. I am so sorry, Yossi. I am so sorry for all the burps and weird edits and weird diatribes.
He's
and
doing
jump
it now.
scares He has given me over the years. Was Yossi a pro when he first joined up with us? No. But you know what he was willing to do? He was willing to learn. And I've trusted him with my voice for the better part of 9 years. And the same goes for another member of the team who you've never gotten to see, but was actually there before the channel was even monetized, which is kind of crazy to think about. You don't know Dan Levitt, but Dan was another one. He was the first who actually saw potential in me and in these channels as a whole, offering to become my manager even though he had never managed a YouTuber before. He just jumped in with 2 feet and said, hey, I've never gotten a brand deal in the past, but think I could do it for you. And he did. And then he got me literally hundreds more. He has his own management company now, and he manages some of the biggest sports creators on all of YouTube. I can say with complete confidence that this company and my career would have looked totally different had it not been for Dan. And his career and his company would have looked totally different without me. He and I have built businesses parallel to each other, right next to each other, using cooperative game theory for over a decade. He trusts me to make good decisions on YouTube, and I trust him to make good decisions as my manager, and we both benefit in the long run. But perhaps the most important person in all of these trusting relationships is you. You guys, right here. I wear you on my wrist these days. You loyal theorists have been the best example of game theory in the history of the show Game Theory. Every time you click on one of these videos, you are leading with trust. You are saying, you know what, I'm gonna give this one a chance, especially on those episodes that are covering topics that you've never even heard of. And on my end, I've always tried my best to fulfill on that promise and make sure that your trust pays off by delivering a great, well-researched, fun, a lot of times stupid video. And yeah, there have been plenty of times where I've missed the mark, where you weren't happy about a topic, or where I said something wrong, or my research was bad, or whatever, and I needed to learn about that. And so you, acting exactly as you should, according to that trust game, you called me out in those moments. You showed me that I had made a mistake. But more importantly, you were willing to forgive. You gave me a chance to learn and grow as a creator and as a person. And look at this. We all won. Look at this thing that we managed to build together. Don't tell anyone else. I mean, there's 3 of them here in the room, but like the rest of them downstairs. You guys, you've always been the most important member of this team, whether or not you ever realized it. And now, as new hosts step in, yeah, they're obviously gonna have to learn a lot, and they're gonna have to earn your trust just like I did over a prolonged period of time. But I hope that you approach them with the same sense of cooperation and goodwill that you did for me all those years ago. So, while I might be leaving as host of this show, Game Theory, it'll never leave. It'll never leave me, and it'll never leave you. We are all Game Theory, which honestly is why I thought it was fitting for you guys to be the one to say this.
But hey! That's just a theory.
That's just a theory.
It's just a theory!
Just a theory.
That's just a theory.
A game theory.
Class dismissed. Thanks for the theories, MatPat.
But hey, that's just a theory.
C'est juste une théorie.
Just a theory. Just a theory.
Just a theory.
Just a theory. Thanks for everything.
But hey, that's
just a theory.
That's just a theory.
Just a theory.
Just a theory.
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 That's just a theory.
That's just a theory.
That's just a theory.
That's just a theory. That's just a theory.
That's just a theory.
A style theory.
A food theory. A film theory. A game theory.
Thanks for watching.
Oh man, where to?
I got something I gotta do.
Okay,
Ready for a road trip?
I guess.
Let's go.
Do I even need to say anything?
You ready?
Yeah.
I've been expecting you. Come, we have much to